screen, I can show you what it looks like in case you're curious. So there's this YouTube interface where we can talk about going live. And you'll see this whole thing beginning. And once it starts, then on YouTube, this thing will start playing with our faces and screens up. There it is. And I'm going to switch it off because if not, I'll hear myself echo during the stream. Okay, so there's actually another student who has decided to join us, but I don't know when he will join. So we're just gonna ignore that for now and focus on whoever we have in the room. So welcome everyone to watching this live stream. Here for today, we are looking into the industry of finance. So this webinar panel discussion is for the purpose of you students who might have not entered uni, maybe you're already in uni, maybe you're in poly or JC, and you're thinking about what you want to pursue in future. And finance is one of those things you might be considering. So this is our, I think, 5th or 6th panel discussion so far. Previously, we've had this around the domain of engineering, media, arts and design, and so on. And today we're having it on finance. So this is a part of our content series to come up with a series of conversations so that we better understand in a very deep way what each of these industries are about, so that we enter it with some meaning, some sense of purpose and meaning, instead of just, oh, this is a good job, that's it. Because that kind of decision making is very shallow. So this event is organized by SGExams and Praxium in collaboration. So my name is Louis, and I run this organization called Praxium, and we generally help students in secondary all the way up to uni to help them figure out what they want to do for work in future. But more than just that, we help them pick up the skill sets, build the networks, find mentors, and build experiences and portfolio so that they can enter these jobs easily. Then one of our partners is SGExams. SGExams is an online community where if you haven't joined them already, you should. So if you go to their website or just search for SGExams, you will find that they have a Telegram community, they have a Discord community, as well as a very active Reddit thread or Reddit subreddit. So you will find a lot of other students like yourselves who might be very uncertain about their future and your path kind of in these communities. And this will be pretty useful for you. All right. So let me just give a brief introduction of who we have today. Other than myself, we have Kelvin. So let me just stop the screen share and show his face. So Kelvin is here.
Hello.
This guy here, very handsome, very cool summer home in his background. We also have Sophia.
Hi.
Sophia here. And we also have Benjamin. I will leave some time for them to introduce themselves later on. And we also have Jalene, who's a student in Poly right now and studying banking and finance, right? Yep. We were supposed to have one more student, but maybe he'll join us later and we'll do the introduction later. So the reason why we are doing this call in this way, where we have a small group of students, and in this case, just one, and the rest of you watching on live stream is because, come on, it's a panel discussion. Not all of you are gonna ask questions anyway. So we wanted to keep it small, and the students who would ask questions and communicate stay in the call, and the rest of us can watch passively. And this allows us to have a much more intimate conversation. All right. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into introductions of everybody. So I will be using this to take some visual notes of everything that is discussed. But in the meantime, our panelists will be sharing what they do for work on their own, and I'll be taking notes just so that in case you ever miss out or didn't catch what they say, you can still look at that diagram that I made in order to catch up. So maybe Benjamin, do you want to go first with an introduction of who you are, what you do?
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Benjamin. I currently am a senior analyst working in MasterCard. I think all of you would be very familiar with the MasterCard brand right here, the orange, red and yellow circles. So I think maybe not everyone is familiar with what we do as a company, but you all are very familiar with the term of credit cards and debit cards. And this whole industry is like quite a very big, complicated industry. But we as MasterCard, we are a what we call a payments network, and we facilitate the payment transaction when you use your credit card. So my role in Mastercard is that my team and we manage the relationship with the bank that issues the credit card. And I'm an analyst on the team that analyzes lots of data every day, also doing financial strategic business planning between the relationship with the bank and us. So lots of numbers that I crunch, lots of data that I look into, and we also do deals with the customer. So that's just in a nutshell what I do on a daily basis. Yeah.
What would you say like finance is about in your own words?
In my own words, I'd say finance is making sense of numbers, making sense of the dollars and cents. I think finance is a very broad term that is used to describe this industry, but there are many branches, many aspects of finance that I think the three panelists here, we all do different areas of finance. And so finance is just really making sense of numbers and seeing how things make sense in a financial term.
Cool. And I wanted to know, so you mentioned quite a little bit about doing analysis of like spending patterns and all that kind of things. Do you have a like visual example, right, of what this analysis might look like?
I can't show you the work that I do, but you just imagine in your head a very big spreadsheet of Excel and lots of numbers and connecting a lot of numbers together. I think for me, where I find that my skill sets are involved is because I deal very well with numbers and data. So making sense of item A, B, C, D, and how they all link together, and then basically compressing all of it to come up to a final metric or final number that helps you to decide what kind of decisions you make in terms of like maybe is this direction or this strategy going to be profitable for the company? Is it going to be profitable for my client? That's the kind of conversation and that's the kind of decisions that me and my team we have to make. And the work that I do is basically crunching all of that big data set of numbers down to maybe 2 or 3 numbers that helps us to make the decision. Yeah.
So I don't know if this will help, but I just went to quickly Google search some images. I don't know, like is this kind of things that you would see every day or something?
I think what you see here is more for investing. Yeah. Less so for business decisions, but this is investing, and yeah, it's the same kind of concept where you have to consider so many different metrics, so many different factors, but at the end of the day, you just need to make one decision, whether or not, in this case, whether you want to buy or sell a stock.
Cool. And I also found another picture. So this is about like cryptocurrency, like, if I'm not wrong. What would you say this is also like investments or something?
Yeah, so apart from that, I think helping to make sense of the data in visual terms like this, charting, bar charts, pie charts, to help people understand the data is also a key part of what I do. It's not only because I see the big data, but I need to present it to maybe senior leaders in my company or even the client, right? So being able to present the data nicely, and that if people are looking at this, they can see, okay, there's a trend going up, going down. What does it mean? That's the kind of insights that I have to create. And there's still just, again, so many different types of data that I have to look into. So making sense of A and B, maybe A and B tell different stories. So which do you choose to factor into your decision making?
I happen to know that like a lot of times when people talk about investments and like looking at numbers, they look at all these data and graphs, right? But I remember in a conversation I had with you in the past where we talked about how investing also isn't just about the numbers, but it's also about what's happening, what are the real events that are happening that influence whether something is worth investing or not.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at the bottom right corner here, this like recent tweets thing. Do you have something you could say about it?
So this would be a bit more, okay, if we use investing as an example,
So
Non-financial.
just to help out, right? So if for those who don't understand what investing is, Benjamin, could you share with us like what's a simple way to understand what is investing?
Investing is basically to grow what you currently have so that it's more in the future. I don't know how else to simplify the word investing. Maybe Sophia can give a bit more of a more concise explanation later. But yeah, I think for me personally, my understanding of investing is basically growing your assets. Assets being what you own, growing your money to make it more in the future. I think maybe some of you all know or hear of the term inflation. That is the rising value or maybe decreasing value of the dollar that you have. So that's why people want to invest, because if you are holding $1 today, $1 today would not be the same value as a dollar 10 years from now.
And my layman understanding is like today bak chor mee is $2.
Yes.
And next year bak chor mee $3.
Yeah.
So money not the same value.
Correct. So the $2 that you had today will not be able to buy you a bowl of bak chor mee next year, right?
Something like that lah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And investing is kind of talking about how if you have this money now, how can you help it make sure that you can buy the bak chor mee next year with that amount that you start with. Or maybe buy two bak chor mee or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, but you were saying also about like this thing about news, right?
Yeah. So apart from numbers, you also need to consider what we call qualitative factors. So for example, recently in China, the news that pops up in my head is recently in China, there's this big competitor brand of Starbucks called Luckin Coffee. It's a big coffee chain in China. And the stock that was in the market was doing really well. But I think there were some financial scandals that was going on in their management. The management, meaning like the CEO and the team. I don't know the full details of it, but there was a scandal, and that caused the value of their stock price to drop. So non-financial factors can affect things in the finance world as well.
So it could be something like if you want to invest in Apple, the Apple computers, the company, and I mean some years back Steve Jobs passed away. So things like that will affect whether the company will do well or not in terms of investments, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. Do you want to arrow maybe either Kelvin or Sophia to go next after you?
Yeah, maybe we go to Sophia since we are talking about investing.
Okay.
Okay. I work with IFA. Okay, just in case the term is not familiar, it's Independent Financial Advisor. So it is in contrast with people who work at banks or maybe insurers. Yeah. So what happens is that I will have partners, which are all the different fund houses. I also work with companies that are platforms, let's say Phillip Capital, iFast, where these are places where I can put my money and they will help me take care of the money, and the money is being invested on these platforms. And then on the other side, I also have insurers, which I work with. So it is Aviva, Manulife, Tokyo Marine, NTUC, etc. So they are all our insurers. So we are independent in the sense that I am not obliged to any of these partners, but to me, my obligation is to my client. Yeah. So I think a bit of what Louis, you mentioned earlier, I see it as a mission. I see it as a mission that in terms of personal finances, it's managed well for an individual, because actually a lot of the times this particular individual, in terms of his finances, we're not just planning for the person himself or herself. Actually, a lot of other people are dependent on him or her. It would be the parents, the spouse, the children. Yeah. So
I pause a bit, right? When you talk
Mm.
about independent financial advisor, right? The IFA.
Mm.
And you talk about how it's in contrast with others. So a lot of like financial advisors that I have met come from like companies like AIA, Prudential. And from what I recall, right, it's always a matter where they try to promote the insurance plans or the schemes that they have. And what you are saying is that you don't promote any particular one.
No, I mean, I'm not obligated to do so. Yeah.
Whereas those who may not be independent may be somewhat obligated to do so.
In a way, I mean, if let's say, for example, for a particular company in terms of their products, usually across the whole range of products, for example, the company usually has a certain product that they are best at, the most cost effective, makes the most money, for example, etc. Yeah, or has the lowest fees. Yeah, but a lot of the times, there isn't one company that has like, for insurer, for example, there isn't one company that has all the best products. Yeah. So on my part, we will do the research with regard to the investment, which one would be the best in the current climate. And then in terms of insurance, we also do the same. We'll also do the research. Yeah. So for hospitalization plan, which one is the most cost effective? Which one has the best features? Yeah. Which one will cover my client who has a particular illness? Yeah. So we do all that kind of research.
I see. So for layperson, right, and particularly for the students as well, insurance is something that keeps coming up. Like whether your parents talk about it, or like you go to some road show and then like someone wants to give you a pen, give you a free pen, and then ask you to buy insurance or something, right? So for a layperson to understand, what exactly is insurance about? What is it? What function does it serve?
Okay. For insurance, effectively, it is to protect our income. Yeah. To protect our income. Is to protect against expenses which I cannot foresee and it's unpredictable. Okay. And then also, it's also to ensure that if any of these things happen, I can take care of myself as well as my family. And, I will not become a burden onto my family or my, loved ones or friends.
Do you mind sharing with us, if it's possible, like how does that work? Because I think for people who know about insurance, they know that if you pay a premium, like every month you pay for the insurance plan, if something happens, you get a payout that, I don't know, it's like 100,000 or 1,000,000 or something in the event of some issue. But how does that money come about? Because for a layperson who are not aware, this money seems to have like dropped from the sky, or someone just give you the money. So how does that work?
Okay. All right. So effectively, to make it, very simplistic, it's like all of us have certain risks. Yeah. So if I'm, be it in terms of my mortality, be it in terms of the probability that I'll get a certain illness. Yeah. So all of us actually, when we buy from an insurer, it's like I pool my money. Maybe if I can use a hospitalization plan, for example. Yeah. So maybe all of us pay maybe I use a round number like $1,000 on a yearly basis. Okay. And if anything happens to me, I will be able to claim from that pool of money. Yeah. So it's actually pooling our risks together. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's how it works.
And I know you mentioned just now a little bit about how finance is like a mission for you. So I wanted to get some clarity, right? So in that case, what is finance about to you?
I think it's really about being able to fulfill our aspirations. Yeah, be regardless of what kind of background we start from. Yeah, because I think you mentioned just now about like how maybe like in terms of inequality, in terms of how certain families may not may need a leg up, for example. Yeah, and if I can actually give an example, that would be one of my clients. He actually, because I used to teach. Yeah, so what happened was that he actually came to me and said, oh, can you help me apply for a home? Then I realized that he's a single father. He's got like 3 kids. Yeah, and no home. He just staying in a rental one room that is actually the grandmother's. Yeah, and from proper planning itself, what happened was that he was able to figure out his cash flow, because previously he was always getting into debt. And then he was also able to put some money aside in order to invest. And then after that, he had enough to pay the down payment for his place. Yeah. And then we were also able to, because previously when he sold his old place, he had HDB levy that he owed HDB. Yeah, and that was put into his loan that he can pay off on a monthly basis. Yeah, so actually there for financial issues like that, actually there are ways to be able to solve it. Yeah. And so I feel that that's my mission. Yeah, to be able to assist people with regardless of what kind of situation. Yeah, to be able to solve their financial problems.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there more that you want to share with us about your work?
Okay. I think a lot of the times, right, I do financial literacy. Yeah, for my friends and my clients. Yeah. So is it okay if I share some things?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So as part of it, okay, maybe everyone could also take a look as well. Everyone can see my screen?
Looks a little bit like a math problem or
No,
something.
math problem. Okay, don't worry. Just look at the box itself. Can? Okay, so this itself, right? Who is richer at 60? So we have Hogan and we have Jesse. So they are twins. Okay. And so in terms of Hogan has and Jesse have both started working at 20 years old. And Hogan has decided to invest at 20. Okay. And so the amount that he has invested, right, is actually 75,000. Okay. And then what happened was that he invested regularly for 15 years, then he stopped for 25. Okay. And then final investment amount, 1.9 million. So for Jessie, she has actually decided to, okay, she would want to only invest after the 15 year. Then she invested for 25. So she started investing at 35 years old. Okay. So the final investment amount finally is 1.2 million. Yeah. So the question is, I think a lot of the times people think that, wow, if I start early, right, it means that actually I will have less money to spend. Yeah, so that's what people would think lah. That's what people will feel that, oh, you know, if I'm going to spend, I'm going to save and invest now, it means that I can't spend. Yeah. However, if let's say I can actually, let me come in. Is it okay if I come in on another device as well?
Yeah, it's okay. If you have the link, you can just join us.
Can, huh? Okay, let me come
And to
on.
clarify on this table here, right?
Yes.
When it says this investment period invested regularly for 15 years, it means that Hogan has continued to put money down for investment for 15 years. And for the remaining 25 years, he just let the amount he has invested sit there.
Yes.
And he don't put
Correct.
any more money in.
Yeah.
Whereas Jesse only started putting money in after 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you got echo, so you gotta mute. Okay, I force mute your computer.
Okay, I disconnected the other one. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just need to mute the audio.
Yeah, noted. Thanks so much. Okay, so now
you sharing something from your...
I'm going to share something from my okay.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see a white screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Now?
Still no.
Still no. Okay. Let me...
In the meantime, right, for Benjamin and Kelvin also, and Sophia, I can chime in. Because just now when you talked about investment and putting the money down and then the returns are coming back, I assume that the amount you get back is dependent on what you invest in.
Yeah. But there's also one particular principle here in terms of what Hogan and Jesse has also done.
Okay.
Okay. So if let's say, for example, if I can draw this, let's see.
By the way, it would be great if you can finish this up in about 3-4 minutes.
Sure. So let's say, for example, this is 20 years old, where they both started to work, and this is 60, where they both want to retire. So if let's say, for example, assuming that they are twins, that they both have the same earning capacity. Okay, so this is actually the entire box of their earnings over the years. Yeah. Okay. So what happens is that Hogan, so for him, it's like a dotted line. You know, he started investing. Yeah. Okay. And then for Jessie, only started 35. So of course, she has to, do a much steeper line.
Steeper meaning she invests more each time.
Yeah. That's why her amount is 260. Yeah. But if we really look at it, what happens is that Hogan invested 75,000. Yeah. Okay. And in the end, right, he ends up with 1.9. And then Jesse has to invest 260 and yet ends up with 1.2. So effectively, who has more spending money?
Hogan, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, Hogan. So Hogan has more. Much more, actually. So much more compared to Jessie. And because she started late also. Yeah. So a lot of the times people think that, wow, if I start investing or I start saving more, it means that I spend less. But in actual fact, actually, it means that over the years, right, later on, you will have much less to be able to spend. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for that sharing. And a lot of your work, I guess, comes with educating your clients on concepts like this.
Educating clients. Yeah. And then with letting them understanding that actually it's the principle of compounding. Yeah. And of course, there is, in terms of investment, I think earlier you said that, okay, is the odds are like a little bit better than betting. So for us, I mean, we don't do speculation. We're into value investing. So we like to buy things that are on discount. Yeah. So let's say, for example, the value that we assess after the homework or research, right, is here. Okay. Then what happens is that if I find out that, okay, the price is actually lower, much lower, then what happens is that this difference, right, it's actually, oops, I think you can't see the, so that difference is actually my margin. So this is how I will actually control my risk. Yeah. So after assessment, the investment in terms of valuation is here, but the price is already here. Then I may not want to buy in already because it will be risky.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
Anyway,
to
you mentioned you were a teacher, right? So were you a math teacher?
Yes. No, I was a PE and English teacher.
Okay, cool. That's nice. Interesting to know.
Yeah, but previously I became a client actually. I had never thought that I would be in this profession because I mean previously I've also never met someone who would, like, have integrity, want to go and help people and stuff like that. I always thought that, people who are in the finance industry, like, wow, very ambitious lah, step on other people lah, backstab lah, yeah, things like that.
Okay. Nice. Good to know. And maybe like lastly you have Kelvin also, right? Kelvin, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kelvin. So I've been working in Community Ventures. It's a venture builder based here in Singapore. They started in around 2017, 2018.
What's a venture builder?
So a venture builder is a company that builds, invests, and grows other companies. They can build companies based on who the owners of this venture builder. They can decide to build a company based on their own skill sets. So for example, a bunch of them could be focused on technology, business, and legal, and they form a team and they want to create a new business. Then there's the other part of it where they can invest and grow other businesses. So investing in, let's say, a business that is still quite small, maybe doing tens of thousands of dollars, and they want to grow it so that it can become a company that makes millions of dollars and then create more value for the market. So that's why venture meaning businesses, builders meaning building a business, and then there's another part to it where they also invest and grow businesses. It's slightly different from venture capital, which is another term in the industry. Venture capital companies generally only invest and grow companies, whereas we have a closer relationship with the companies that we build or invest in by working with them on their operations, their leadership, their corporate development, a few other areas that I can share more about later if there are any questions. Yeah. So I'm an associate in the company. So there's the owners / partners. So these partners, they run the business. And I'm supporting them on the day-to-day matters that are related to business operations, business development, operations, finance, etc., etc.
Cool. I think what caught my attention, one of the things was you said that you are an associate. So I think when it comes to people who don't know about finance industry, when they think of like job titles, right, they might be thinking about like banker or like investor or something. And then there are some terms like maybe Benjamin is an analyst, Kelvin is an associate. But what do these words mean?
I think it would depend on the company and its nature of business, right? So if you're in the banking industry, they would have very, very specific terms. For example, a corporate relationship manager. What it basically means is that you work with corporate clients as someone who would take care of their needs, your client's needs, which is working very closely with a corporate client, which is a business client. And you also have like consumer relationship managers who work with retail clients like us who go to the bank, deposit money, invest money through the bank. So I guess banks have very, very specific terms. For us, for like a company like mine, which is a venture builder, I guess they came up with a very generic term, which is associate. And that's why my day-to-day is actually a variety of activities that cuts across different functions of business, which include operations, finance, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's fundraising. So there's a slew of things that I handle. That's why I think a more generic term such as associate is used. And I think for Benjamin, his analyst term, based on what he described earlier, was also it's a role that's very specific to analyzing numbers and seeing how they can use the numbers to work with the clients and help the clients with their business. Yeah.
Cool. And I think I want to go to that question also, right? Like, what's finance about to you?
What's finance about to me? So for me, it's one of the functions of business, but I see it as a way to know the health and fitness of a business. And it goes hand in hand with accounting, right? So accounting is, to me, is actually the language of business. So accounting communicates how the business is doing via the numbers and via how money flows in and out of the business, and how the company creates value and receives money from other businesses or other consumers. So with health, it would mean that the thing which is called money in the business and what finance is often tied to is actually more like a resource. So it's a resource that you get more of, a resource that you deploy, that you distribute, that you spend. So there's and when you spend, it's a cost to the business. So it's taking away. But when it takes away, it allows the business to also generate. So like when you go to exercise, you generate energy. And when you rest, you also generate energy. But as you exert energy, or like in terms of money, you're spending it, it becomes like a cycle of how you allocate your resource to generate, rest, and then regenerate and generate even more energy. And then it ties back to fitness, right? So if a company is able to allocate resources well, is able to exercise the money well, and spend it wisely and use it to create more value, it becomes fitter and it becomes stronger and therefore makes even more money via doing so. Yeah, so that's one way I see it.
That's cool. I've been taking some notes here. So maybe now is a nice time for me to show some of these notes, right? And these are some stuff that I've taken down. So what is finance about? Handling payments so that people can send and receive money. Just a little bit of what I caught from like MasterCard with Benjamin. Then like what he shared also about analyzing spending patterns to understand what people care about and need, making sense of numbers, to like what Kelvin just shared, a way to know the health and fitness of a business, help clients with financial woes, helping clients fulfill aspirations regardless of background. One of the things that a lot of students that I've encountered talk about is finance is about making money. So is there anything from you guys, right, who are like in the industry, how would you comment on, say, this motivation in this case? Or this mission of finance, I suppose? Yeah, anyone can go.
So I think businesses exist to me. I mean, there's this whole philosophy of why businesses exist, right? So I think businesses exist to create value, and money is just a means to an end. It's what I mentioned earlier, where it's a resource, and yes, you kind of want to make it, but you actually make it from the standpoint of creating value first. And the result is that the money which you can redeploy into the business or deploy elsewhere to make even more money. And it's a resource to do many things, right? So to improve people's lives, to improve our quality of life via creating different products and services that are available in the market. So a variety of things, from food to the computers we use. So yes, one part of it is making money, but there's the other side where it's just a means to an end of a product or service that you and I enjoy as we experience life.
Cool. Benjamin, Sophia, any thoughts from you too?
So what Kelvin mentioned, I guess, is more the business side of things. For MasterCard, what we do, it's more on the daily lives of consumers. If you think about it, we consumers, we also use money. There's that financial element. And instead of transacting with businesses or a service with cash, physical hard cash, my company or competitor companies have enabled a way of wirelessly or digitally transferring that kind of money in safer, in better, more convenient ways. So finance in that sense is also about transactions and how we have moved away from the very rudimentary and traditional way of barter trading into a very modern way of transacting with one another. So that's another thought of how finance moves society.
And in a sense, it's to you also not just about making money, but I mean for MasterCard, for example, offering the service of like wirelessly transferring money. It's a service in itself, and it's not about making more money or anything. It's just creating something that people need.
Correct. We make money in the process, but essentially what Kelvin mentioned, the value that we create is providing this convenience and enabling, like I said, a safe way, a more convenient way of transacting.
And Sophia, anything from you?
Yeah, I think in terms of making money, I think a lot of the times this term has been made to be like an evil thing to do. Yeah, but actually I think like what Kelvin has mentioned, money is a resource, and actually we can't really make money. The money comes from the people who gives it to me or to us after the value has been created. So I always see it as a win-win situation. Yeah, my client must win, and then I also have to eat lah, because it cannot be that I'm like 喝西北风, kind of thing. Yeah. And so the thing with making money is that maybe some of the times the impression is that, okay, I just make money for myself, but actually it's okay, if I can say this. I remember my boss would tell us, earn a lot, save a lot, invest a lot, give a lot. Yeah, but I think some of the times the last part is gone. So people just think about, just earning for ourselves. But I think it's a resource that is to be able to make someone else's life better. So actually without that, then it becomes very pointless. And I think it also comes back to the heart and the intention. Let's say, for example, someone like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, like he has his foundation, like Bill Gates has his foundation. Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have money, he wouldn't be able to go and do that. Yeah, so in order to be able to add value to others, I think we have to first do it for ourselves, and then after that be able to give. Yeah.
So I think that's a nice time for me to bring in us to one graphic that I prepared, right? I just want to assure, like, there's a few people on YouTube who are asking questions, Jackie and Yu Yang. So I want to just assure you guys, these questions are I'm noting them, and we'll go into them in a short time. We also are hoping to invite Jelaine, who's on the call, and Senthil, who's also on the call now, to raise some questions. Before that, I wanted to share, because it's related to what you shared. This is a graphic produced by Seedly. They're a financial literacy, financial information news website. For all the young folks who want to know more about finance, I think this is a nice kind of platform to follow and read. They do produce a lot of content that's helpful for, like, maybe you want to get your first flat, you want to get married. They break down the finances of these things quite nicely. And this is a graphic that I got from them about the income in Singapore. And I wanted to just raise some attention to the income inequality as well. So if you see this 10th decile, right, which is like the top 10% of people in Singapore in terms of their earnings, for example, and you would call them rich, this would be their monthly, say, income in a sense, 13,000, for example. And on the other end, we have those who may be from more on the poor side. So my understanding is that in finance, there may be a lot of finance professionals may find a lot of room to serve people in this 10th decile or anything on top, because they have more money to invest or spend. In a sense, they are easier to work with as compared to those on the bottom decile who may not have much money to invest or even to save. And one of the things that sometimes we talk about as we go to schools also is who actually needs more financial help in a sense. And Sophia, since you kind of in this domain, right? Thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I think for me, I really want to be able to assist, those who are in the first, second, third, fourth, to be able to improve their own lives, and then so they can improve their families lah. So I think for myself, yeah, I mean, just now the example that I shared. So there's this client of mine, he was a single father, he's a driver. And he didn't have a flat, now he has a 2-room. Yeah. So I'm quite certain, no, he's not in this 10th decile. Yeah. So I think for me, I really would like to be able to help people bridge that gap also. And I think it's also another myth that, the people who earn more, they will get to, of course they enjoy their lives. Yeah. But at the end of the day, right, those who are able to retire, I also realize that it comes down to how much they can keep. So it's not so much how much they earn, but it's how much they keep. Yeah. I remember another friend who came to us who needed help. He had a 6-figure income on a, yearly basis. So earning very well. He also had a 6-figure debt. Yeah. And so it started from cash flow issues. Yeah. And of a certain lifestyle that he likes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from my angle, as someone who runs a social enterprise, we look at social issues quite carefully, and generally in many countries where inequality is high, where we see a small group of people earn a lot and the rest earn significantly less, and you see this jump is quite a significant jump. A lot of issues start coming up in society, a lot of problems start emerging. So part of my kind of like personal social responsibility in choosing to organize this panel also is to just raise some attention to this. Hopeful that people who come into this space might also care about this as well.
And actually, I also want to raise something. Actually, in all our different finances, personal finances, there are different risks. Some people could be, having too much in certain asset. So that's one particular kind of risk. But for people who are in, let's say, the first, second decile, right? There's another risk, which is actually the risk of earning too little. Because for them, they can cut, really cut. They are really at their lowest in terms of expenses really. But yet they are only able to save very, very little. Yeah. So actually for clients whom we work with, everyone will have their own financial plan, like a customized blueprint, so that they'll know, okay, this is my financial objective, this is my timeline, what do I need to do in order to get there? Yeah. If let's say they've been doing well, okay, please continue. Yeah. So we help them to see where the blind spots are, and then we help them to re-strategize or strategize.
Okay. At this point, right, I want to start taking questions also. So, Jolene, do you have any questions that you would like to ask to panelists?
For Sophia, right, what are the factors that you look at when you help someone with financial planning?
What are the factors? Meaning?
Like how do you help someone with financial planning? Like
how
what
do I help someone with? Yeah. Okay, there are a few things to look at. In the very first place, one is commitment from the person. Yeah. If not, I can nag until, the cows come home. he or she doesn't want to change his or her habits, right, then I cannot help the person. Yeah. Then two, I will sit down with the person to really find out from him or her, how has he been actually dealing with money. Yeah. So coming down with the cash, coming down to exactly the cash flow, what has he been spending and things like that. Yeah. And then also to look at what are the financial goals that this person has, which will give rise to the timeline. Yeah. In terms of the tolerance, psychological tolerance of this person into investing, because actually most or many of us are not able to get to our goals just simply by working alone. Yeah. So, and then after that, we also looked at financial capacity of the person. Yeah. And then after that, also what's happening in the market right now. Yeah, to be able to advise or recommend the client what are the instruments in terms of investment to get into for himself. Yeah, so from there, we will also do like what we call like soft fact finding, meaning that also really to, besides the commitment part, also the personality and character of the client. Yeah, because when I sit down with this person, maybe this person has certain tendency for, maybe liking bubble tea. Yeah. And then maybe all the surplus money, right? Yeah, just goes to buying bubble tea or certain parts of consumerism. Yeah. Then I have to think about, okay, and discuss with the client, okay, this is what I can do for you. Okay. And these are your options. Yeah. Are you okay to come on board? Yeah. In order to be able to fulfill the financial objectives that you have written down for yourself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Senthil, hi. You have any
Hi.
questions you want to ask too?
Yes. Just want to check with Sophia. Okay, my son will be going into uni in another 3 years' time after his NS. Is currently in JC1. So by then he reaches a uni. How much do I need to save by that time so that he can continue study in uni? Either just give for locally or even in overseas in case cannot find in locally, may go to overseas. Just need some advice from you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Senthil.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Senthil. This is really like on the spot. Yeah. So, okay, because he's in JC.
Yeah, he's in JC1.
JC1, okay, yeah. And he will fulfill his NS, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Which means that he will have about another 4 more years.
Yeah.
To uni.
Yes, 3.5. Yeah, almost to be 4 years, yes.
About 4 years, okay.
Yep.
So from there, we also want to understand, how much would you want to fund for him? Yeah. So we will also want to understand from you. Let's say, for example, are you funding 100%, 50%? Yeah. Or you are okay to let him work on his own. Yeah.
Or maybe like a bank loan or scholarship is available, things like that.
If they get it, okay, fine. But if you want to go with if we don't have chance to get scholarship or anything, we need to come out from our pocket. Yeah, we understand. Yeah. So in that case, yeah.
If let's say that's the case, we also want to understand from you local or overseas.
Yep.
And if it's overseas, where?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, the different types of courses, the course fees are also different.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if let's say we have an idea, then we would be able to say, okay, let's say for example, 100K.
Okay.
Yeah, to be able to send your son to uni. Then after that, we will also work with you in terms of okay, how much funding do you already have? What are the other financial objectives you have in this 4 years?
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, because if let's say, for example, it's a local uni, then you can also use part of your CPF to help fund for it. Yeah.
Okay.
If not, then what are the other ways to be able to assist you?
Okay.
Yeah.
We
so
cannot
there's
use
an entire process.
So
Okay.
just to help focus the conversation, because partly this chat that we're having is to help students who are interested to pursue, like, say, the finance industry. So if Cynthia, you need this help from Sophia, I'm very happy to connect you guys after this call so that you can get that personal help and advice lah. But as a
Sure,
quick
sure.
kind of input,
Yeah.
based on my understanding, as a Singaporean, if you apply for like local universities, your total cost fees for the 4 years could be between like 35,000 to 40,000 with a tuition fee grant or loan or something.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong, like, if things haven't changed. Certain courses cost more if you are like going for like law or medicine. But I think Sophia is exactly right. If overseas, that whole thing gets a lot higher dramatically.
Yeah. So that could be like $500,000 for a medical course in Australia, for example.
Okay, so I wanted to bring us to some questions that were asked in the YouTube live as well. So if you are watching on YouTube, please feel free to ask questions there. One of the questions is, can a student in a non-related business accountancy course in university cross over to the finance industry? So if I guess you're studying like business and marketing or accountancy, can you cross over to the finance industry? And the follow-up question to that is, if it's possible, is it common to see such people in the industry?
So non-finance course going into finance, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sophia is a good example. That's one example. Another, yeah, and if you talk to a lot of insurance agents, they tend to be from other industries. I know people who work in banks, some of them are engineers. Yeah, so banks do hire engineers, and it's a variety of skill sets. And I think some companies would also, I mean, they even within like a bank, they have different departments, right? So operations, HR, and so bank is a finance industry, but HR is a role where a psychology major would join because they understand people, they know how to hire people, who best to hire. So there are social science people who actually would join the finance industry, and I would say the finance industry is huge enough to have that whole spectrum of people who can join. Of course, if you are like a neuroscientist or a rocket scientist, maybe a bank wouldn't suit you. NASA would suit you more. But
I suppose, like, to go to the essence of the question also, I suppose this person might be asking about like finance roles, right? Like whether you're doing like an analyst role or like doing investment banking. And Benjamin, do you have any experience? Because I know you have friends in this industry as well.
Yeah, so one of my very good friends, he is recently joining an investment bank, but his bachelor degree was in chemical engineering. So he did chemical engineering for a good 2, 3, 4 years, and I think he picked up certain skills there, but he realized that it's not for him. Then he went on to take an MBA, which is a master's in business administration, and that's where he picked up all these like skills on finance, which is not too difficult, I would say. I think finance is a field that is, I think, easily accessible. The hurdles and the barriers to entry are not too high. Anyone should be able to join in even at a later stage, compared to someone like who suddenly decide, I want to be a doctor, and then you need to go through that 10 years of education in medical school. So finance, I would say, easier for those people who trained or studied in non-financial areas to come in. I think one key thing that I wanted to point out is that it's the skill of knowing how to think as well that helps you to succeed in finance. It's not just only knowing how to deal with the numbers. I think the thought process of how you break down these numbers and strategize, it's also a key thing. And that's why I think lots of engineers eventually also come in, because they have that framework, that structure on how they can problem solve. I mean, in finance, we have lots of problems. We are trying to answer key questions on decision making on a daily basis, like I explained a bit on my background. And if you have that kind of knowledge and insights on how you want to frame problems and how you solve it, that makes you a very strong person in the finance field. Yeah.
I happen to know that there are certain things like certifications, like there's like ACCA or like CFA, these kind of things which are not associated or pegged to your university degree, that I guess anyone can take these certifications. Are they relevant, important, or necessary to enter the field?
So again, depending on what kind of job you're going for. So if you want to be someone who is like what we call equity analyst or equity research analyst, or research analyst in general in the finance field, you might want to take up things like a CFA, which is a chartered financial. I forgot what A is.
An analyst.
Chartered financial analysis course.
Yeah.
Over 3 years, you get that certificate, and companies like BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, or Schroders, these companies would see that certification as a valuable asset. And you have done your due diligence. Please come in there. Please come in and join us. So supplement.
Is this something that you have as well? Do you personally?
Okay, so before joining Mastercard, I was with a research firm or a fund company called Franklin Templeton.
Not FUN lah.
Yeah,
fun,
not
fun
fun.
house.
It can be fun also lah.
FUND.
FUND, fun
or
house.
portfolio management company, where we basically invest in all these instruments, and someone like Sophia would be selling our products to investors, retail investors. So in that field, if I wanted to do well in that company, I would probably have decided to take that step to start with doing a CFA, for example, and that would help me to accelerate my career in that line. But for me, I felt a bit more disillusioned with the industry, and also I didn't feel that calling in a long-term perspective. So that's where I decided to make a career switch and join a more technology-focused company like Mastercard.
Nice. I think this is a nice juncture for me to show another thing that I prepared. I'm very well prepared for this. So here's a chart that sometimes we use at Praxium to kind of map out, to understand the industry. So I'm going to look at finance in two different angles. One of it is the skills you possess or the training that you get when you do something like finance, when you learn banking and finance in school and so on, or maybe you take a CFA and stuff. So this is like the domain of knowledge that you have, and that's the horizontal kind of axis. But the vertical one that I'm looking at is also another way to categorize industries in terms of the function of the industry. So what does the industry do? So if we kind of like cross like the finance skill set with the finance industry, right? We kind of see like the typical what you might expect lah: banker, investment, personal finance. You could be a banker, investor, financial planner. You would kind of fall squarely within this domain. But I think you kind of look across the different industries, right? Like say healthcare. Healthcare has great need for finance in Singapore. Things like MediShield, things like CPF, they're all really important things to help Singaporeans in the healthcare domain lah. Because if not, then healthcare cost in Singapore is actually quite low and very, very affordable. So I think part of that is the work of the finance industry, working closely in the healthcare sector. And beyond that, it's also things like research and development. So if you were to develop a new drug, a new machine, you need money to do that. You need to hire people, you need to get the lab, you need to get the equipment. So the finance skill set could be useful in terms of sourcing maybe what's the most affordable one, most cost-effective one, seeing whether if you invested or funded this research project, does it end up being useful for you? And like Sophia mentioned things like risk just now. So how risky is this research? Will it work? Is there like a 80% chance that your research will turn out well? Or is it a 20% chance or something? So there's work in that domain. And there's also urban planning, like real estate, and as well as property development. So if you notice in Singapore, we always pop up new condominiums. So all these need money also. So in the finance kind of sector, you would look at, say, this property or this land that got purchased. When you just purchase the land, maybe we'll just anyhow say, this land is worth $1 million. But are you able to build things on top of it? Are you able to build a mall? Are you able to build a condo or something so that this land who's originally worth $1 million becomes worth 10 million instead? And so that's another way you look at it. And we could also look in like technology. So folks like Kelvin maybe start to be quite familiar with this, where there's like venture capital that you invest in companies, or like fintech. And that's actually where Benjamin is at, kind of, with MasterCard, the technology that enables finance to be more effective for people. And even like in arts and media, right? You think about how in Singapore, the arts is pretty strongly supported by government grants and so on. But how does the government then decide which artists to support, which artists to fund? And there's some form of a measurement you have to track. Like, is this person that we give this money to, are they going to grow out a culture in Singapore effectively? Are they going to talk about the message that like is useful for us to talk about? And this is just a framework we use sometimes to look at certain jobs, certain skill sets. And you can see that if you were trained in, say, technology, you would see it plays out a little bit differently. So technology in urban planning, you look at like smart cities, automation, traffic lights, how do you make it more clever and make you wait less, for example, and stuff like that. This is a framework sometimes we use at Praxium to kind of help make sense of different industries. And I hope that one was able to help you see in finance, it's not just about banks, it's also about many other things also. Jelaine or Senthil, do you have any other questions about the finance industry you would like to ask folks here?
Basically, it's quite a useful session actually. I want to ask, maybe I can ask one thing. My son is quite interested in going for finance sector also. Okay, at least by now, how I can something like can encourage him to get used to the finance sector, all these things, how to start the investments perspective, and how to get to know him or get some knowledge about those finance sectors. And I want him to get start investment, something like a small investments, and get used to the investment portfolios, all these things. Sophia can answer for this.
Okay. Thank you again, Senthil.
Thank you,
again, as I mentioned, we would always want to look into the person's finances first before we would recommend. Maybe if I can give an example. Louis, is it okay if I share screen?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. Can you all see this? Yeah. So this is like a financial plan. Yeah. So what happens is that someone before the investing even starts, we would actually collect, all this different information from the client first in order to analyze what kind of risk the person has. Yeah. And then from there, what is it in terms that he or she wants to fulfill. So in this case, essentially, I would actually put everything into the financial plan. So whatever that is, happening for this person, in terms of the financial objectives, the timeline. So if let's say, for example, in your son's case, I also want to find out maybe from him how much allowance he's getting, what kind of savings he already has. Yeah. So, and if let's say for someone who is working already, has a family to feed and things like that, emergency funding needs to be put aside. So this entire document, okay, will list and then be able to tell what kind of risk level this person is at. Yeah. And then after analyzing all of this, cash flow. So effectively, this is like a financial statement for a company, but this is a personal one. Yeah. Then after that, analyzing all this, then I'm able to say, okay, where your risks are, how much you should invest. There are some clients who, let's say, for example, they are earning a lot and they are saving a lot. They may be able to go into investment instruments with low volatility because they don't need to risk too much money. Okay. So on and all, after all this analysis, we would actually let clients know, okay, with all that you want to do, what are your shortfalls? And then that's what the investment is for, in order to be able to accumulate towards these financial goals. Yeah. So just like what Louis mentioned earlier also, we would put into account, let's say, for example, this client has this particular goal. We'll say, okay, this is the goal that you're looking towards. How much CPF do you already have? How much do you have to borrow? What is your monthly repayment like, and things like that. Yeah, yeah. So this is what we'll go through for every client first before we will recommend how much to invest. There are some clients who even, maybe in your case, or we would tell the client, there was this client, wanted to invest 100K with us, but actually in 6 months' time, the client wanted to invest in a property. So we told the client, sorry, you do not have other surplus funds already. Please don't invest with us. The 100K is meant for your property. Yeah. So same thing, Senthil, for yourself. I would also need to assess, whether is it a suitable time for him to actually get started, or is there like anything else he should be looking at first. Yeah, there had also been clients who was in debt and then wanted to invest, but that wouldn't work. It would have to, pay off like the debt, which has I think like 5-6%. Yeah. Yeah. So there are things like that.
So beyond just information about how you yourself can invest more and stuff like that, right? I was wanted to ask also Benjamin and Kelvin, if say like a student were to be interested in the field and they want to get into it, aside from like entering a course and learning, right? What are the things that they can do to better prepare themselves? Before you answer that, like Jolene, do you happen to take Principle of Accounts in secondary school?
Yeah.
So actually some of the numbers just now that Sophia showed, you kind of see if you understand a little bit of it. So I think if any students who's interested in finance, I think Principle of Accounts is quite a useful subject to gain some appreciation. But I think it's useful for students to stop looking at Principle of Accounts as like an exam subject to score for, and to start seeing how do you apply it into your life.
It's actually very useful. Yeah.
But Benjamin and Kelvin, do you have any tips in terms of like, so I mean, there's this subject from school, but what else can you do to maybe gain more knowledge or to get a sense whether you're actually interested in this?
Yeah. So I think there's two parts to it, right? So one part is what you're learning in school. I think there is a gap in terms of our education system. So one is learning more about personal finance. Thankfully, in the market, there are people like Sophia, IFAs, as well as insurance agents who actually help fill that gap with telling you about how to look at your own personal finance. So speaking to such people would help. But the other thing is to take personal financial literacy very seriously for yourself. Read a lot, read widely, so that you understand things from a personal perspective, because that protects you on a personal front. So you will discover like how important insurance is, how important savings is, and how important investing is. So that's on the personal side. And on the professional side, if you are interested in getting deeper into the different financial functions, right? For example, if you want to be an analyst like Benjamin, then also reach out to people like him. Or you can talk to people who work in banks. These could be family, friends. So I would start off by getting a very like low-hanging fruits. You just talk to people you know first. And that gives you a good perspective of what's available in the market and how things are like. Then you might sense like, okay, maybe I'm a bit more interested. Then I can start looking into the subject matters that are important. For example, maybe for analysts, now you would need some data science knowledge coupled with principle of accounts, coupled with maybe fund management. Yeah, so it really depends. And you have to look at not just one subject, but a slew of subjects, because finance is such a wide thing. And I guess going through that discovery process of like just figuring out like, or just talking to people, you might sense, okay, you want fund management or you want investment banking. and then going deeper from there. So that's what I would suggest.
I think just to add on, Kelvin really explained it very, very clearly. But I think just to add on, there are many resources online available now. Like Louis had that chart from Seedly. I think Seedly is one of a very good local resource that you can read into, and they make personal finance as easy to understand to the layman as possible. So, as I said just now, finance is quite easily accessible to everyone. Although I would also comment that the financial industry, there are many complex areas to it, and the more complex and the deeper you go into it sometimes can mess with your mind quite a bit. But you can also just maintain your level at the personal finance level to understand more, and that is enough to cover a lot of ground. What you study in school matters as well, like you said. For me, I did economics, so I also studied on how governments deal with finance and how they control the supply of money, and how and what that affects like society on the whole, like on the personal level or businesses. If they print more money, they put more money into the system, what happens? If they take money out, what happens? So things like that also matter. And I think like Kelvin said, if you want to be finance, most likely you're going to be an accountant, right? You're going to really look at the numbers and dollars and cents. But if you want to be a bit more of a generalist, finance helps you to make decisions from a business point of view. If you want to be an entrepreneur, for example, you need finance as a skill set, because you need to know how to run your business. You need to know how much profit you're making or how much losses you're making in that month, for example. Yeah. So finance is a tool. Finance is an asset, a knowledge base that you need to help businesses in general, help yourself as a person. Yeah.
Okay, I jump in for a while.
Yeah,
I totally agree with Calvin and Ben. I think it's all very well rounded. I was thinking with regard to maybe even internships and traineeships, that you can apply to, because I understand that for poly and for uni, when you go to, you're also supposed to fulfill the 10 weeks, for example. Then if let's say this is already an area that you like very much, find a good company with good culture that you can learn from, so that you're also not like just stapling all the time or just photostating.
I'll share a picture also based on the notes we've taken. So actually this left side is answering a little bit about another earlier question, right? About what are the things you need to study and what's relevant. So these are just some relevant majors you can consider that could be interesting to explore. That a lot of people who come into finance typically come through these kind of majors. But I think as we kind of like concluded, right? Actually anything goes lah. Like you want to study anything also can one. Most of the time. There are of course like certain exceptions. There are certain like very niche jobs, like very, very niche jobs that may require a very specific training, but we're not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the field as a whole. And here are some tips like principal accounts could be a useful subject. And these are some stuff that people have talked about before. And this is like a personal thing, right? So I feel like if you're interested in finance, it's a very like simple thing to go and look at a bank's website and go and see what exactly does the bank offer and how does the bank make money doing that. I think if you can get a good grasp of that, right, you have a very good head start in terms of understanding how the finance sector might work. I think that's a good start. I think the point Sophia mentioned about internships is so useful. If you haven't actually had any work experience before, I highly recommend go for some form of an internship or a job and start paying attention to like the numbers and the dollars and cents that flows through the business. So how does the business make money and so on and so forth? Because when you do eventually go into university or poly or IT to take some form of like finance or accountancy course, the numbers are not just like numbers on a paper. You know that these are like cash flowing through people's hands and wallets and bank accounts. And that gives you a much greater understanding or appreciation for the things you might be learning. So that's some of my tips there. Maybe just to close us off, right? I want to come to this question, which is a bit more personal, which is what keeps you interested in finance? And anyone can go. Sophia already mentioned mission, so I'll just leave it there, right? Then,
Yeah.
Kelvin?
Yeah, it's quite deep. I mean, it can go quite deep. So
Okay. Or like a summarized version of it.
For me, I would not directly associate what I do with finance per se, but if you want to talk about what kind of value that my company is doing, that's one key aspect that led me to work where I am today and why I left my previous role. Because I did not really want to focus so much on companies making money for like making more money, right? That was I felt a bit of like in the investing side of things, that was the goal of most of the companies in that field, which is not a bad thing, but I just personally didn't have that connection. And the work that I was doing there, I also didn't feel the value that was creating on the ground. Whereas where I am now in MasterCard, I know that what the work that I do is enabling transactions daily, right? On like every day, there are billions of credit card or debit card transactions going around, and it's because people are transacting, buying things, selling things, and money is exchanging hands. And what this system has created is enabling more money to move around, and that in itself, as you know, those who study economics, is the GDP, right, of a company, right? More money is generated, a country can do better. In this sense, like in this COVID situation, people are spending less money. That's why you always hear them talking about government, we are going into recession, because people are just not spending money. The money is being held in their hands. So personally, I feel that the work that I do creates value on the ground, and that's what's keeping me motivated in what I do. Yeah.
I paraphrase based on what you are saying. So
Yes.
just put it there.
I mean, I see it as a mission. I see it as part of nation building.
it is.
Yeah. So because I feel that it's important, as a family, that the financial pillar is strong. Yeah. So that it doesn't fall apart. I mean, when I was teaching, I was a form teacher of a normal tech class, and I remember that there was a lot of issues, from the kids' families, because there are financial issues, then leading to break up, leading to divorces, single parent family. Yeah, so I see it as one of the pillars. Yeah, that I hope to be able to contribute my small part to make the family strong. Yeah, so that the community and the nation can be a strong one. Yeah.
Nice. Kevin, do you manage to find your words?
Yeah, kind of. I think it's a lever to improve lives. So you there's like you mentioned, there's so much inequality, right? And the world has opportunities that are I mean, there's the income gap, which is a result because of the lack of opportunities for people. But through my own work, I've seen how just redistributing the resource of money enables people to improve their lives, their cost of living. I mean, having enough to live properly and having enough to have a better quality of life. Yeah, and I do feel there's more than enough to go around, and finance is a means to allow that to happen to even more people. Yeah.
Nice. I really appreciate all that sharing that you guys have. And I feel very hopeful and like positive about this, right? Because a lot of times when I come into conversation with folks who might be in the finance industry, I walk away feeling a bit pessimistic, a bit like jaded with what the world is like. But this was a very like wholesome like set of like points and motivations that you guys have shared that makes me very hopeful for our future. So thanks for that, and all the good work that you guys are doing as well. So I think we're reaching the end of today's session, and just want to check, Jolene, any last questions
No.
Okay, cool. Just so you know, right, all these points that we kind of put out on, we've discussed the video as well as the content that we kind of talked about. The interns at Praxium will be basically generating an article based on this, an easy to read thing, so people who don't want to watch the whole video can get a summary of it, or at least be able to, even for you guys who may have gone through the whole thing, to have a like condensed summarized version of that, and we'll be happy to share that with you guys at the end lah. But to help facilitate that, right, it'll be helpful if like whoever's watching can also key in this feedback URL so that you can give us some feedback for how this session went. I'll also be typing it into the YouTube chat if my interns have not already done so. And for whoever's watching, you can kind of give us feedback about how this session went so we can make it better next time around. We always want to improve lah. Okay, the link's in the chat right there. So yep. So whoever's here also, please feel free to fill this in. While you're doing that, keep it on your browser or something and fill it in when you can. I also want to bring some attention to some of the communities that we are hosting and facilitating for lah. If you're on Telegram, we actually have this Telegram group called the Praxium Youth Community. You can key this URL in or just search for it on Telegram and you'll be able to find this. Basically, we are finding a bunch of folks, young people who are interested to build a future for themselves, to work towards their aspirations and all that, to kind of find each other and find the support they can get from each other. So this is like kind of like a sample of one of the conversations that's happening, right? Like people want to learn programming and then they kind of help each other. And we also offer some resource and support to them to build up these skill sets. So if today, right, you learn about all this finance stuff, you're interested and you want to take the next step, then you don't know where to start. Part of our job with Praxium is also to give you that resource to get started on this. We have a bunch of things like mentorship programs, which maybe we could pair you up with that Benjamin, Kelvin, or Sophia, who might be your mentors, right, and give you that support in wanting to grow in the finance industry. You want to think about it in another way. Maybe this is like finance tuition or whatever other fields you're interested in, like programming.
Finance 101.
Something like that. So I think like our goal is really to provide these learning educational opportunities which are so important but are just not available for you guys. And the purpose is to focus on the things that you care about instead of the things that the school cares about. Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram too. We have a couple of posts now and then to share with you what we do. Content like this, sometimes we'll share it there. So feel free to follow us there. And this is just some of the stuff we have. So I want to thank everyone, including the panelists, including our audience, including the students and whoever who's on the call with us for being here. I also want to thank SGExams, who, if you missed them earlier, they're a student community as well. They talk about a lot of different things from like stress at school to how do you handle your parents and stuff like that. And you can kind of join them to get that community. And my advice, just join all the communities. Just join theirs, join ours. Then you have built your network, built your friendships and your resource and capability, what's available to you. All right, so this is what we have for today. Again, thank you everyone. For those who don't mind staying back for a little bit more, I wanted to show a video which I showed Ben before. This one's about like investing in a sense, and it comes from a TV show. And let me search that up. It's from a TV show called Silicon Valley, and it kind of like it's a slightly dramatic story, but it kind of talks about how this fictional character was had a brilliant plan to do some investment. So if you guys want to drop off here, feel free to do so. I'm just going to share a video because Ben knows me since secondary school and I always like to share videos. This one, the backstory for this is there's this guy who's called Peter Gregory, and he's an investor and he helps companies to grow their business and give them money to grow their business. So Kelvin, right, is a venture builder. And Peter Gregory in this show is a venture capitalist. So he doesn't start the business, but he helps your business grow, helps you find money to grow your business. So he had a few of his companies approach him and say they need money because they are facing some problems and they need some money to get through the period. and they will be able to pay back and stuff like that. So this character, Peter Gregory, you will find he's a bit strange, but he kind of shows you his thought process in how he manages to raise this money for these companies. So I'm just gonna show that here, and you guys can watch that.
Oh, Peter, you're here. We were supposed to meet 40 minutes ago with the guys from Astrophile about the emergency capital injection.
As we discussed, our North Carolina plant went sideways. So we need 15 million now, or we'll have to shut down.
Have any of you ever eaten at Burger King?
Yes. Why?
Well, I was just driven past one. And while I know their market cap is $7 billion plus, I realize I am unfamiliar with their offerings.
Okay, fine. But what does that have to do?
Is it popular among your peers? Is it enjoyed?
People seem to like it. It's okay.
And their selection consists solely of these burgers, of which they are presumably king.
They have other things. Chicken, fish.
I'm sorry, what are we doing here?
Here's what we will do. Monica, have one of the assistants go to the nearest Burger King location and purchase one of everything. This is which one?
The BK double stacker.
Fascinating.
Peter, I know that you are incredibly busy with this, but I made a personal promise to the Astrophile guys that none of their employees would lose their job, which will happen at midnight.
Do you see this?
The Junior Whopper?
No, not the sandwich. This seed atop the breading.
Those are sesame seeds.
A high number of these breadings have sesame seeds on them. Billions of breadings. Sesame seeds. They only grow in certain microclimates.
Peter, I know that you don't want to cause 173 people in North Carolina.
Cicadas.
I told you he's going to handle it.
Mr. Gregory, this is ridiculous.
Sir.
Mr. Gregory, we need an answer, and we need it now.
Yes?
We need money now. And I'm sure that Burger King and sesame seeds and whatever else you've been mumbling about in here all seem lovely to think about, but they have...
Myanmar and Brazil.
No more of this, okay? Are we getting the money or not? Will you please just tell us what the hell is going on?
Amusing coincidence that 2 of the 3 countries that provide the world sesame seeds have such large cicada populations, no? The cicadas of Myanmar emerge every 13 years, while the Brazilian cicadas emerge every 17. Next year, they will hatch simultaneously for the first time in 221 years. Crops from both countries will be decimated. Unlike Myanmar and Brazil, Indonesia has no cicada population. I was surprised to see Indonesian sesame seed futures priced so low. I made a purchase, and now, if the shortage spikes the global price even 10%, we'll profit, Evan?
$68 million.
If you wish, I could tap that projected revenue and make you a bridge loan of $15 million, gentlemen. Unless you need more?
No, thank you. Holy shit.
Yes? Happy?
See? I told you he was taking care of it.
And now, would anyone like some BK? Evan was kind enough to go out and get breakfast. It's just sitting here.
Actually, I'd love some. Thank you so much.
Is there cumin in this barbecue sauce?
I will definitely find out.
Please do.
So this is quite a dramatic one. But I think it kind of, I don't know whether like maybe Benjamin or Kelvin or Sophia wants to chime in, right? But at least from my layperson's perspective, it gives me a lot more appreciation and be a lot more impressed with like the how it's not just about making money lah. It's about really understanding how things work and how to make the best use of these resources available. Yeah. So if you guys,
yeah, it's true. Yeah. One of an external like fund manager we work with, it's almost like that. Sometimes when you talk to him about something, he can just tell you, oh, this connection, and then it comes back to, oh, this is why this company is so valuable. Yeah, but it's really seeing that relationship. But some of us, because we may not be as in depth, we won't be able to connect that. Like in his case, the cicadas will decimate the crops in the other two countries, and which is why Indonesia, I mean, in terms of the futures, it will go up. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would hear sometimes, or what the fund managers say, and it's fascinating.
And Benjamin and Kelvin, is that like does that resonate with you guys also?
Yeah, I think this is a bit too dramatized and too extreme, but a bit of what you try to do again is when you do problem solving, you try to connect the dots and figure out A to Z. How do you get from A to Z in the fastest way possible, for example? And yeah, it gives excitement to your work, although it causes some headache sometimes, but yeah, it's day to day or what you do in your work. Yeah.
I think that's why one of the advice was to read widely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it highlights the importance of what I feel is another like gap in education, which is systems thinking and critical thinking. Because learning how to connect the dots from a wide range of things that you read is so important, because you can see how something so different from investment actually applies to investment, and how it can actually help you with investing properly and making a lot of money. Yeah.
Yep, and with that, I will end today's session. Again, thanks everyone for joining us, and like hang around to watch the video. I love to share videos. So again, if you want to like learn more about random stuff through like entertaining like videos, sitcom, drama, that kind of stuff, or even games, like we try to do that for our youth community to offer these easy to access things to understand what they're getting into. Because the worst thing is you sign on for this course and like next 10 years of the life is set, and then you don't really know what you're getting into. So that's what we're trying to help people avoid. Otherwise, thank